intentionally, deliberately, and with premeditation shot the clerk, causing her to die. I did this with a specific intent to kill her.
It requires a DNA sample to be taken upon arrest, which is often like a cotton swab or in the inside of your cheek. Possible penalty of up to life imprisonment or any term of years less than life.
Courtrooms are where justice prevails, but in some cases they become the theater for shocking occurrences one can never predict. Far beyond the emotions where people might turn red with rage, these dramatic episodes have gripped the whole world. Today's video shows the top 5 clips of the most viewed courtroom moments of all time that got millions of views. Tune in for shocking revelations, heart-wrenching words, and one last twist that amazed everyone. Ready to dive in? Let's get started. 5. Jeremy Christian. Here, we have Jeremy Christian, a man who was convicted of murdering 2 individuals in Portland, Oregon. The incident begins with Christian on a crowded train suddenly deciding to start shouting racist abuse at 2 young women. A few courageous passengers attempted to reason with him to no avail. Things worsened. Christian grabbed a knife and went on knifing 2 of the men who tried to assist, and the other was left critically injured. As the situation turned chaotic, Christian left the scene. Some passengers got out to pursue him, but he was caught about a mile away. In the arrest of Christian, he could be heard yelling and making some disgusting statements from the back of the police car. As a result of these incidents, Christian was convicted of 2 counts of murder, as well as an attempt to murder. In some moments of the sentencing, while the victim's family member was reading an emotional speech for the victim, Christian shocked everyone with an angry, remarkable comment. He was, however, later given 2 life terms plus 25 years for other crimes the judge had found him guilty of.
Swallowed you. You are a waste of breath. And when you die, you go to hell. I hope you rot.
See you there.
Many in the community were disturbed by this, and it is important that we remember that courageous people were found in times of need. 4th, Christopher McNabb.
Kid back, man. That's my child, man. I want my kid, man.
The next day, the child's mother reported the baby missing to police. Local law enforcement immediately launched a search. Later that night, McNabb is seen in front of TV cameras begging for his child back.
Would a father kill his child and leave his dead body in a forest? Such is the case of Christopher McNabb, who was charged with the murder of his 2-week-old baby in Covington, Georgia. This sad occurrence started when the mother of the baby went to the police to report that her child was missing, and the police immediately searched. That evening, McNabb appeared before the television cameras and cried while urging people to help him find his child, saying, "I want my kid back, man." The next day, the child's body was found in a wood not far from the place of the incident, and the cause of the kid's death was determined to be a head injury, which is considered a murder case. Shortly after that, McNabb was arrested and charged with the murder of his child. In the court trial process, the defendant McNabb continually denied involvement after being convicted of the crime. "I've never done this," he said. "I would never do this." But the judge then gave him a turnaround and asked him to recommend the proper punishment for anyone who would commit such a crime. McNabb said the person responsible should get the maximum sentence, and the judge concurred, sentencing McNabb to life in prison without parole.
Charged with the murder of his own 2-week-old baby. After he was found guilty, we now move on to the sentencing.
Glover is now serving his sentence at Hayes State Prison in Georgia. McNabb's story is a tragic and truly shocking story. 3. Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari.
Malnutrition and dehydration due to neglect by the adult caregivers.
It's about an hour and a half. I was waiting. I called my lawyer first thing to ask, what's the next thing I could do.
One recent heartbreaking event occurred in Cedar Springs, Michigan, where Seth Welch and his wife Tatiana Fusari, a farming religious couple, were accused of causing the death of their baby, Mary Welch, who was just 10 months old. Due to their bitterness, They declined medical care for their poorly nourished and underweight child, believing that medicine and the government were out to harm them. When they eventually found out that their child had died, Welch made a creepy 911 call, during which he proved that he had called his attorney before calling the police. In this specific call, Welch was very casual and said, "I called my lawyer first to ask what I should do." This statement caused a thunderstorm among viewers. When the dispatcher asked why he did not seek help earlier for his daughter, he casually said they did not check on her after she had been dead for hours. They last saw her alive at night. The post-mortem conducted later showed that the cause of baby Mary's death was malnutrition and dehydration, a sign of neglect that lasted for some time. Police officers did not hesitate to arrest both parents and formally accused them of felony murder and first-degree child abuse. The judge coldly stated that in the case of felony murder, the minimum term one receives is life imprisonment without parole, while in the case of child abuse, which can lead to a maximum of life imprisonment. They could not deny the pieces of evidence. Their actions were so heinous, and the courtroom was hushed when the prisoners began to realize that they would be spending the rest of their lives in jail. A tragic end to what could have otherwise been avoided if only the parents of the conflict had acted reasonably. Second, Michael Swanson.
Where did you shoot?
On the body?
Yeah.
And on the face?
In the face? Okay. Why the face?
If I was just gonna shoot to injure her, why would I shoot her at all?
17, when he went on a killing spree of 2 Iowa gas station attendees in the span.
At the age of 17, Michael Swanson became one of the youngest killers ever heard in the crime history of America when he killed 2 attendants of Iowa's gas stations in an hour. Swanson wore a mask and held a gun when he went to a gas station in Algona, Iowa, and pointing a gun at 47-year-old Vicki Bowman Hall, demanded cash and cigarettes from her. In both circumstances, the police shot her point blank, as well as ignoring the mercy that Swanson ordered for her to be given. 1 hour later, in Humboldt, Iowa, Swanson performed the act again and killed Sheila Myers in another unnecessary bloodbath. They followed him for 60 miles and managed to identify his vehicle, then arrested him. When interrogated by the police on how he felt right after pulling the trigger, Swanson did not appear to be remorseful. Instead, he said, "A little powerful." The 2 victims had obeyed his commands, but he still fired the gun at them. In the course of his trial, Swanson was not remorseful at all. During the hearing, one of the victim's daughters, who was in tears, said, "How could you do what you did to my mom and my family? Are you sorry?" Swanson had no remorse on his face. He received 2 lifetime prison terms, and when the judge labeled him a cold-blooded murderer, Swanson winked, thus confirming his character was erratic and lethally formidable. Swanson had another incident 4 years into his jail time where he stabbed another prisoner in the neck. He had cut the throat, which proved his violent nature. First, Susan Mellon.
Testimony. She was 42 years old when she was arrested in Los Angeles, California, at a McDonald's while taking her daughter to get a Happy Meal. But that was the last time she would see her child for 7 years.
This is the true and heart-wrenching story of Susan Mellon, a 42-year-old lady arrested at the McDonald's in Los Angeles while taking her daughter for a Happy Meal. That pure moment was followed by her arrest for the murder of her ex-boyfriend, which she did not commit at all. Her entire world crumbled as she was confined to life and hard labor without any possibility of parole, all because an informer fabricated information that Susan had made a full confession over the crime. For 17 years, Mellon endured prison life and separated from her daughter until the truth finally surfaced. The informant was a pathological liar. Then, in the twist of the climax in the courtroom, there was a clearing for Susan. The clamps were removed, and she hugged her lawyer, from tears of joy to relief. The first thing she did? She returned with her daughter to McDonald's to eventually have a Happy Meal she'd been looking forward to having. It was later cleared that Susan received nearly $600,000 as her compensation, and the city of Los Angeles was to pay her $12 million as damages.